Hello, everybody. Today we're going to continue with lesson 3.8, add decimals. And basically, our essential question is how can place value help you add decimals? Okay. And we're on page 139 of the fifth grade Go Math textbook. So unlock the problem. Henry recorded the amount of rain that fell during 2 hours. In the first hour, Henry measured 2 and 35 hundredth centimeters of rain. In the second hour, he measured 1 and 82 hundredth centimeters of rain. Henry estimated that about 4 centimeters of rain fell in 2 hours. What is the total amount of rain that fell? How can you use this estimate to decide if your answer is reasonable? All right, so let's identify some important information here. So he measured 2 and 35 hundredth centimeters of rain in the first hour, and then he added or counted another 1 and 82 hundredth centimeters of rain. We have to find out what is the total amount of rain that fell. And how can we use this estimate to decide if your answer is reasonable? So he's saying his answer is about 4 centimeters. So, all right, we have 2 and 35 hundredths plus 1 and 82 hundredths. Let's identify a couple of things first. You notice that the numbers in blue, those are in the hundredths place. The orange numbers are in the tenths. So we have 3 tenths, 8 tenths. And the numbers in green are whole numbers. They're in the ones place. So we're just going to start from right to left on this, and we're just going to add the hundredths first. So 5 hundredths plus 2 hundredths is 7 hundredths. We don't have to regroup. So let's go to the next one. Now we're going to add the tenths. 8 tenths plus 3 tenths is 11 tenths. Well, there we have to regroup, right? We're going to regroup it as 1 1 and 1 tenth. All right, now I add the ones and the regrouped one. 2 plus 1 gives us 4. So 4 and 17 hundredths. So draw a quick picture to check your work. So you'll remember that what we did with that is we used squares to represent the whole numbers. We used 10 rods to represent the tenths. And we used circles to represent the hundredths. So we have 2 and 35 hundredths plus 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths, 2 hundredths. So 1 and 82 hundredths. When we add that, we wind up with 7 hundredths. So we don't have to regroup that, right? Let's look at the tenths. 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we will have to regroup 10 of those. So we're going to trade 10 of those for one whole. Okay. And now we would add the ones and we don't have to regroup that. So we'd have 4 wholes or 4 ones. We'd have 1 tenth left. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. So that matches our answer of 4 and 17 hundredths. Is 4 and 17 hundredths close to our estimate of 4? Sure it is. In fact, we would round. If we were rounding down to the nearest 1, we would say 4. Okay? So our answer is reasonable. All right, let's go to page 140. Equivalent decimals. Now, this is an important part to keep in mind for when we're adding decimals and also subtracting decimals. When we add decimals, you can use equivalent decimals to help keep the numbers aligned in each place. Add zeros to the right of the last digit as needed. This is only in decimals. Okay, if you're trying to add 23 plus 230, you can't add a 0 to the 23. Okay, but with decimals, zeros after like the tenths doesn't add any additional value to it. So the addends have the same number of decimal places. So the only reason we're adding the zeros is to make them match. So here we have 20 and 4 tenths plus 13 and 76 hundredths. You notice that the 4 tenths has no hundredths. Well, we can put the 0 there so that we have the same number of digits. Okay. All right, now they do want us to estimate first. So if we're going to round to the nearest whole number, okay, 20.4, we're rounding to the 0. The 4 is less than 5, so keep it 20. 13.76, the 7 is greater than 5, so we're going to round up to 14. 20 plus 14, 34. Okay, now find the actual sum. Again, start with the hundredths. 6 and no hundredths, 6. 7 tenths and 4 tenths is 11 tenths. We'll have to regroup that as 1 1 and 1 tenth. Add the ones. 3 and the 1 regrouped 1 is 4. And 2 tenths plus 1 tenth is 34 tenths. Now, don't leave this answer here. Remember, there's a decimal point in between. So make sure you bring your decimal point down so that it's right where it is in the numbers. All right, so is this answer reasonable? 34 and 16 hundredths. Well, the estimate was 34. So yeah. All right, so let's keep going. Number 1. So we're going to round these to get an estimate. And 2.5, that's close to 3. And 4.6, that's close to 5. Add that together, you would get 8 for your estimate. Okay, now let's find the actual sum. 6 tenths and 5 tenths is 11 tenths. Regroup that as 1 whole and 1 tenth. Add the ones and the regrouped ones. 4 plus 2, 6, right? And 1 more, 7. Make sure you put the decimal in between. All right, number 2, the estimate. 8 and 75 hundredths, 6 and 43 hundredths. 8 and 75 hundredths, we round up because the 7 is greater than 5. 6 and 43 hundredths, we'd round down because the 4 is less than 5. So we should get an answer close to 15. All right, let's add the hundredths. 5 and 3 is 8 hundredths. There's no need to regroup. Move to the tenths. 7 and 4 more is 11 tenths. Regroup that as 1 1 and 1 tenth. We are now in the whole numbers, so place your decimal. 8 and 6 more is 14 ones, plus the regrouped one is 15. So again, that's really close to our estimate. Number 3, 2 and 3 hundredths plus 7 and 89 hundredths. We'd round 2 and 3 hundredths to 2, and we'd round 7 and 89 hundredths to 8. And 8 and 2 is 10. Okay, start with the hundredths. 9 and 3 more hundredths is 12 hundredths. We're going to have to regroup that as 1 tenth and 2 hundredths. 8 tenths plus no tenths plus the regroup 10 is 9 tenths. We don't have to regroup, but we are moving on to the whole number. So place your decimal. 7 and 2 more is 9. 9 and 92 hundredths, very close to 10. Okay, let's look at number 4. Estimate. Six and 34 hundredths plus 3 and 8 tenths. 6 and 34 hundredths, the 3 is less than 5, so let's keep it 6. And 8 is greater than 5, so let's round up to 4. And 6 and 4, that will give us 10. Okay, now here we have 3.8 and we have 6.34. A common mistake that some students will make is lining up the digits right to left. But this is 8 tenths and the 4 is in the hundredths. So to keep us from making that mistake, add the 0 after the 8. Okay, 80 hundredths is equal to 8 tenths. All right, now we know we have our place value lined up correctly. Another way you can always make sure is, do you have your decimal point lined up? If you're having problems lining things up, you might want to use graph paper. You can also use a piece of paper and turn it sideways. Okay? And use these to line up your numbers. Okay. All right, so 4 hundredths plus the 0 hundredths we added is 4 hundredths. 8 tenths and 3 more tenths is 11 tenths. Regroup that as 1, 1, and 10 tenths. We're now moving to the ones place. So 6 and 3 more ones is 9, plus 1 more is 10. 10 and 14 hundredths. Okay, number 5. 5 and 63 hundredths plus 2 and 6 tenths. We're going to round 5 and 6 tenths to 6 because 6 is greater than 5. So we'd add 1 to the 5. 2 and 6 tenths, the 6 is greater than 5, so we round that up to the 3 by adding 1 to it. So 6 and 3 is 9. Okay, rewrite it. So we have 5 and 63 hundredths, and then we have 2 and 6 tenths. So 2 and 6 tenths. And we can put a 0 so we have our place values, ensuring that they're all lined up. All right, 3 hundredths plus no hundredths is 3 hundredths. 6 tenths plus 6 tenths is 12 tenths. Regroup that as 1, 1, and 2 tenths. We're now going to move to the ones and add the 5 and the 2 ones plus the regrouped 1. 7 and 1 more 8. 8 and 23 hundredths. Okay, number 6. So connect symbols and words, find the sum. So 7 and 25 hundredths. 7 and 25 hundredths added to 9 and 4 tenths. Okay, we can put a 0 after so we have the same number of place value digits. All right, just add that together now. 5 and 0 hundredths is 5 hundredths. 4 tenths and 2 tenths is 6 tenths. So we have no need to regroup. We're going to move to the ones now. And 9 and 7 more ones. Well, 1 more would give me 10, right? And then I'd have 6 more. So 10 and 6 is 16. 16 and 65 hundredths. Number 7. 12 and 8 hundredths. Now be careful with that one. Okay, 12 and 8 hundredths. If you write 12.8, you actually have 12 and 8 tenths, which if we added a 0 to the right of it, we'd have 12 and 80 hundredths. So this is different than 12 and 80 hundredths. So if it says 8 hundredths, you have to have a 0 in the tenths place. Added to 4 and 35 hundredths. 4 and 35 hundredths. Again, we just want to make sure we have the same number of decimal place values. So 8 and 5 more thousandths is 13 hundredths, sorry. 8 hundredths plus 5 hundredths is 13 hundredths. We'll regroup that as 1/10 and 3 hundredths. 3 tenths plus no tenths plus the regroup tenth. That's 4 tenths. Okay, we're now going to move to the ones, so put your decimal point. 4 and 2 more ones is 6, and the 110 plus nothing is 110. So 16.43, or 16 and 43 hundredths. Number 8, 19 and 7 tenths. 19 and 7 tenths. Okay, you want to put a 0 here because that would then be 19 and 7 hundredths. We want 7 tenths. And we're going to add 4 and 92 hundredths. 4 and 92 hundredths. Well, this one's in the hundredths. This one's in the tenths. So what can we do? We can put a 0 in the hundredths. All right. So 2 and 0 hundredths is 2. 9 and 7 tenths is 16 tenths. Regroup that as 1 whole and 6 tenths. We're moving to the ones. So 9 plus the regroup 1 is 10, and 4 more is 14, which we'll regroup as 110 and 4 ones. And 110 plus the regroup 10 is 2 tenths. So 24 and 62 hundredths. Number 1, 1 and 82 hundredths added to 15 and 8 tenths. Okay, now here we can put a 0 so we know that we have the same number of decimal value digits in the decimals. Here we have the 5 and the 1 lined up and the 1 to the left. So 15 and 1. Okay. All right, 2 hundredths and 0 hundredths is 2 hundredths. 8 tenths and 8 tenths is 16 tenths. Regroup that as 1, 1 and 6 tenths. We're moving to the ones now. 5 plus 1 plus the regrouped 1 is 7. And 110 plus no tens is 1. So 17 and 62 hundredths. All right, number 10. 7 and 99 hundredths plus 8 and 34 hundredths. Okay, we have the same number of place value digits, so 9 and 4 is 13. Regroup that as 1/10 and 3 hundredths. 9 and 3 tenths is 12 tenths, plus 1 more is 13 tenths. Regroup that as 1, 1 and 3 tenths. 8 and 7 ones is 15 ones, plus the regroup 1 is 16. 16.33. 15 and 76 hundredths plus 8 and 2 tenths. 8 and 2 tenths. And you notice I added a 0 after the 2. Okay. 6 and no hundredths is 6 hundredths. 7 and 2 more tenths is 9 tenths. We're moving to the ones now, so put your decimal point. 8 and 5 is 13, which we'll regroup as 110 and 3 ones, and 1 and 1 is 2. Number 12. 9 and 6 tenths added to 5 and 49 hundredths. Okay, so the ones are lined up, the decimal points lined up, the tenths is lined up, and I can add a 0 for the hundredths just for making sure my place value is lined up. 9 and 0 is 9. 6 and 4 is 10 tenths. We're going to regroup that as one whole. 9 and 5 is 14, and one more is 15. So 15.09. Number 13. 33 and 5 tenths plus 16 and 4 tenths. So everything lines up. 5 tenths and 4 tenths is 9 tenths. We're moving to the ones, so put your decimal point. 6 and 3 is 9 ones. 3 and 1/10 is 4 tenths. So 49 and 9 tenths. Number 14. 9 and 84 hundredths plus 21 and 52 hundredths. Okay, so the place values lined up. 4 hundredths and 2 hundredths is 6 hundredths. 8 tenths and 5 tenths is 13 tenths. Regroup that as 1/10, as one whole and 3 tenths. We are now moving to the ones to add, so place your decimal. 9 and 1 is 10, plus the regrouped 1 is 11 ones. Regroup that as 1/10 and 1. And 2 plus 1/10 is 31. Or 3 tens. All right, 15. Okay, 4.6 again. How do I know that I'm getting right? The decimal point has to be lined up properly. Okay. And I'm going to add a 0 after the 6 to put them both in the hundredths. 9 plus no hundredths is 9 hundredths. 8 and 6 tenths is 14 tenths. I'll regroup that as one whole and 4 tenths. 4 and 3 is 7, plus one more is 8. 8 and 49 hundredths. Number 16. 42 and 19 hundredths plus 8 and 8 tenths. We add a 0 so that we have both numbers in hundredths. I'm just going to draw a line there to just make sure that there's no confusion. 9 plus no hundredths is 9 hundredths. 8 and 1/10 is 9 tenths. We're going to move to the ones, so add your decimal point. 8 and 2 ones is 10 ones. Regroup that as 1/10 and 0 ones. 4 and the regroup 10 is 5 tenths. Okay, 17. 16 and 74 hundredths plus 5 and 34 hundredths. 4 and 4 hundredths is 8 hundredths. 7 and 3 tenths is 10 tenths. Regroup that as one whole and 0 tenths. We're moving to the ones. Put your decimal point. 6 and 5 is 11, plus one more is 12. So we'll regroup that as 1/10 and 2 ones. And 1/10 plus the regroup 10 gives us 2 tens. So 22 and 8 hundredths. 22 and 8 hundredths. And 18. 27 and 58 hundredths. 83 and 9 tenths. We can add a 0 in the hundredths, so they both are in the hundredths place. 8 and 0 is 8 hundredths. 9 and 5 tenths is 14 tenths. Regroup that as 1 and 4 tenths. 7 and 3 more ones is 10 ones, plus the regroup 1 is 11 ones. Regroup that as 1/10 and 1. 8 and 2 tens is 10 tens. plus the regroup 10 is 11 tens. So 111 and 48 hundredths. All right, 19. Tania measured the growth of her plant each week. The first week, the plant's height measured 2 and 65 hundredths decimeters. During the second week, Tania's plant grew 7 tenths decimeter. How tall was Tania's plant at the end of the second week? Describe the steps you took to solve the problem. All right, so we have a certain amount of growth one week, and then we have an additional amount the second week. So we're just going to be adding that. So we have 2 and 65 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Okay, right now they don't have the same same number of digits for their place value. I can add a 0 so that they're both in the hundredths place. All right, 5 and 0 hundredths is 5. 7 tenths is 6 tenths is 13 tenths. I'll regroup that as 1 whole and 3 tenths. I'm moving to the ones, so I'm going to place the decimal. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So her plant is 3 and 35 hundredths decimeters. What did we do? Okay, I added 5 hundredths and 0 hundredths. To get 5 hundredths. I then added the tenths. Six tenths plus 7 tenths was 13 tenths. I regrouped that. I regrouped the 13 tenths as 1, 1, and 3 tenths. I then added 2 ones plus 0 ones and the 1 regrouped one to get 3. Okay. So you're basically just explaining the steps that you did. Okay, I added the hundredths first. I then moved to the tenths. I had 13 tenths. I had to regroup that as 1, 1, and 3 tenths. I then added the 2 and the 0 ones plus the regrouped one to get 3. All right, number 20. Maggie had $35.13. Her mom gave her $7.50 for watching her younger brother. She was paid $10.35 for her old roller skates. How much money does Maggie have now? All right, so she starts with $35.13. Her mom gives her $7.50. Well, we would add that, right? The mom's giving her that, so now she has some more money. And she was paid $10.35 for her roller skates. That's also going to be added. Okay, so we're going to line up all of these values. Okay, so I have all the numbers lined up based on the decimal point. 13 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 35 hundredths. Okay. We really don't need that 0 there, right? We just know that the 7 is in the ones place. All right. 5 and 3 hundredths is 8 hundredths. 5 and 3 tenths is 8 tenths, plus 1 more is 9 tenths. Okay, we don't have to regroup yet. So let's place our decimal because we're moving to the ones place. 7 and 5 more, that's 12 ones. We're going to have to regroup that has 1 10 and 2 ones. So 3 tens plus 1 is 4 tens, plus the regroup 10 is 5. So she has $52.98. All right, 21. A city receives an average rainfall of 16 and 99 centimeters in August. One year, during the month of August, it rained 8 and 33 centimeters by August 15th. Then it rained another 4 and 65 centimeters through the end of the month. What was the total rainfall in centimeters for the month? What do I need to find? Well, total rainfall in centimeters for August. What information are you given? They do give me 16 and 99 centimeters, but that's an average. It's not actually how much fell during August. So we're not going to use that number. We are going to use 8 and 33 centimeters by August 15th. And then through the end of the month, the 4 and 65 hundredths. So 8 and 33 centimeters, basically August 1st through August 15th. 4 and 65 centimeters, August 16th to end of the month. All right. How will you use addition to find the total number of centimeters that rain fell? Well, you're just basically going to add the two values, right? Just add the two amounts for the two time periods in August. So we have 8 and 33 hundredths and 4 and 65 hundredths. Well, 5 hundredths and 3 hundredths is 8 hundredths. 6 tenths and 3 tenths is 9 tenths. We're moving to the 1, so let's place our decimal. And 8 ones and 4 ones is 12 ones, which we can just write as 12 because there are no more digits to add. So 12 and 98 hundredths. Okay, so that's how much it rained. It was less than the average. All right, 22. Horatio caught a fish that weighed 1 and 25 pounds. Later, he caught another fish that weighed 1 and 92 pounds. What was the combined weight of both fish? Okay. 1 and 25 pound, 1 and 92 pound. The combined weight, that means add. Okay, so we're adding. So we need 1 and 25 hundredths. It says the digits may be used more than once or not at all. So 1 and 25 hundredths. And we also need 1 and 92 hundredths. And now just add, right? 5 hundredths and 2 hundredths, 7 hundredths. 9 tenths plus 2 tenths is 11 tenths. We're going to regroup that as 1 whole and 1 tenth. Add the 2 ones and the regroup 1 to give us 3. Okay. So that's all there is to adding decimals. The key, make sure that we line up the decimal point and line up the decimal values. Okay. So basically line up place value is the most important part. It's really important that we write straight. Okay. So if you're having problems keeping your numbers straight, they're slanting to the right or to the left, and your place value aren't being lined up correctly, use graph paper just like this, okay? So you can fill in the numbers properly. All right, so that's it for now. So in our next lesson, we're going to work on subtracting decimals. So until then, I will see you soon.